Good morning, Professor. This is Catalina, and I'm gonna go over this week's assignment.
So this week was another ANOVA exercise. In this case, it was psychologists that wanted to study the level of cooperation in 3 groups of preschool children. Each group differed in its composition. So one was all males, the second one was all females, and the third one was mixed. So we want to see if there's a significant difference between the 3 groups, because that's what ANOVA tells us. It tells us if there is a difference, but it doesn't tell us where the difference lies. So we're just gonna find out if there's a difference. So first we need to find each independent group mean, and then we find the overall mean, which is shown here in the table. Then we state our null hypothesis, which is that there's no significant difference in the mean of the level of cooperation between preschool children groups with different composition. So here you can see the mathematical way to write it. So okay, for the ANOVA we need to find an F ratio. So the first step to find the F ratio is to calculate the sum of squares for within groups. So we did that for each group separately. We subtract the score, the mean from each group to each single score, and then we square it and we sum it. We did all that, and we got that the sum of squares within was 34.5. After that, we need to find the sum of squares between. So we need to find the difference of each group's mean minus the grad mean to the square times the sample size. And then we add them, and we see that the sum of squares between is equal to 48. Now we need to calculate the degrees of freedom both within and between. So the within are all the cases together, all the scores, minus the number of categories, which in this case it would be 18 minus 3. 18 is, each category has 6 scores, so you subtract, so 6 times 3, 18, minus the 3 groups, 15. And that difference, degrees of freedom, between is just the number of categories minus 1, so in this case 2. Then we need to find the mean square between and the mean square within. So the between, we divide the between group sum of squares divided the between group degrees of freedom, and we got 24. And then for the within we do the same, but with the within values. So within groups sum squares divided within groups degrees of freedom, and we got 2.3. And lastly, for the F ratio, we divide the mean square between over the mean square within. In this case, we got a value of 10.43. Now we need to look for the critical value. So we need to look at the F tables, and we have, 2 degrees of freedom. The within is 15, the between is 2, and with an alpha level of 0.05, we look at the tables, and we see that our critical value is 3.68. So after having all values, we can reject the null at a 0.05 alpha confidence level, because of our F ratio obtained does exceed our critical value a lot. So 10.43 is way bigger than 3.68. So we reject our null hypothesis. And this means that there is statistical evidence saying that the measures are unequal, that there is a difference. However, we don't know where that difference lies. So in conclusion, there's a significant difference in the mean of level of cooperation between the preschool children groups with different compositions.
Thank you so much, Professor. See you next week. Bye.